Hey, Randy Joe here, and this is 1001 Reviews, a series where I plan on reviewing every single album from the 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die book. And today we are looking at Emmylou Harris's 1975 album, Pieces of the Sky. According to the book, Pieces of the Sky by Emmylou Harris was produced under the Reprise label by Brian Aherne, with art direction from Tom Wilkes, nationality USA, and a running time of 37 minutes and 25 seconds. When it comes to Pieces of the Sky, Emmylou Harris offers up a mixed bag of different things. Sort of like a trail mix of songs, this album offers up one original song, a few collaborations, and a handful of covers. Most of these songs being pretty enjoyable overall. The song Bluebird Wine does kick off the album by being this more upbeat and lively experience on the album, but kind of remains an outlier for that reason specifically. Most of this album is doused in emotion, whereas this song, even though there is a sense of emotion to it, isn't as sad as the others and is far more upbeat and catchy. This upbeat catchiness does try to set a tone, but it fails to set the proper tone for the album, in my opinion, when an opening song should sort of gauge the kind of album this is going to be. Again, Bluebird Wine is a really enjoyable song though overall, and I don't think it deserves to take too much of a hit to the album. I just feel like it is a strange one to place at the start of the album. That being said, the next song, Too Far Gone, is my favorite song on the album and dictates the style a lot more of this album in a way. Lyrically speaking, this is a song of heartbreak about a lover who has now left them, and even though they have left, the singer, the narrator of this song, is saying that no matter what, they will continue to love them even after they're gone, and they will always love them until the end of time, to the point that they are completely willing to wait for them if their new lover that they have left them for decides to leave them. So the narrator is really just completely giving up all sense of hope for themselves finding someone else because they're so lost in love with this one person that they are willing to completely wait for this person who had left them to return, if that ever even becomes the case. She's too far gone in love with this person to kind of make it out on her own. Emmylou's performance here really does manage to bring out the emotion in these lyrics and evoke the amount of power that is meant to be presented here. You really feel all the overwhelming sadness that comes along with the lyrics. On top of that, the instrumentation and backup vocals add even a further layer of emotion to an already emotionally charged track. Speaking of emotionally charged songs, another shining moment on this album is the Emmylou original, Boulder to Birmingham, which serves as a tribute to Emmylou's mentor, Graham Parsons, who took Emmylou under his wing and helped kickstart her career and kind of remained a creative collaborator of sorts alongside her. This is a pretty emotional track and really does honor Graham Parsons in a very tasteful way. This is the only song on the album that is written by Emmylou herself, and I think because of that, the emotional connection that she has to the lyrics really does come out quite a bit and makes it better for it. She's not singing from a narrator's point of view or singing on behalf of someone else's lyrics, but instead she's singing purely from the heart and purely from her own experiences of this tribute to Graham Parsons. The personal connection here really does make the song feel a bit more tangible. However, there are a couple of songs that I struggle to find any sort of enjoyment in, those songs being If Only I Could Win Your Love and Bottle Let Me Down. The biggest factor as to why I don't enjoy these two songs the most on the album really stem from the fact that Emmylou decides to sing alongside someone who I personally find doesn't add too much to the songs and in fact takes a lot away and damages these songs, that collaborator being Herb Peterson. Herb's singing is pretty standard and generic as far as country singers go and really doesn't offer anything unique to these songs. Quite honestly, most of the time he is sharing most of the lyrics here and trying to harmonize with Emmylou, but in attempting to harmonize, I find they often clash more than they complement one another. They just have two very different tones and distinct styles in a way that to me it almost feels like they are attempting to take the track to the point that it's kind of difficult to determine whose track this is. This harmonizing really does not work at all in my opinion because their voices are just too different to really take the stage. It's like two dancers dancing together and both are trying to be the lead. And quite honestly, if I had to pick one singer over the other, I would definitely go with Emmylou because her voice is at least far more interesting, unique, and beautiful over Herb Peterson's voice, which is very bland. And finally, the last thing I want to mention about this album is the handful of cover songs that come along here. You have the cover of the song Coat of Many Colors by Dolly Parton. And really, after hearing this cover of Dolly Parton's song, I have to really just wonder why. Because this song really doesn't offer anything different from the Dolly Parton original, to the point where it feels almost like an imitation of the Dolly Parton original. Like, it has the same arrangements, same vocal stylings. It isn't really doing anything unique or original, and for the most part, Emmylou really does sound as if she's doing a Dolly Parton impression in a way. And maybe it's because her and Dolly have a similar tone of voice, and that really makes for just a very much samey track. But if that's the case, in my opinion, why even put it on the album at all? Because it doesn't feel like it is necessarily better than the original. It's still enjoyable because I think the production on this one is far better than Dolly Parton's, but even still, if the only thing that's better is the production, then it kind of just feels like a cheap rehash. Emmylou then attempts to cover the Beatles song For No One, which in my opinion is actually a pretty decent cover and is an interesting take on a song that is already very emotionally charged. I think what makes this cover of the Beatles song a bit more interesting than her cover of the Dolly Parton song is that Emmylou is attempting to take a song that is in a different field and a different genre and bringing it over to the country styles that she does, which does make for a much more interesting experience in a way. Not necessarily a better experience. I don't think this is better than the Beatles version of the song, but I do think this one is definitely a different take and a nice offering up to the country audience. Really, the greatest offering to this song is the different arrangements and instrumentation that are being brought into the mix, and really removing the softer subtlety of the Beatles version. Personally, I enjoy the subtleness of the Beatles version quite a bit more because it offers for a much more blunt and direct experience, but in a way, this version is a bit more expressive because of how much more is going on production-wise. And I can definitely see why people might like this version more than the original. Myself, again, I don't. I think in many ways the instrumentation of this does overdo itself, but this is still something that a lot of people will enjoy. And then finally, for the last song on the album, we have Queen of the Silver Dollar, which is a cover of the Shel Silverstein song of the same name. Again, a nice switch up of styles of what the original one is into a more country-focused song. And I think this does offer the country audience something that is a bit more unique and out of their realm over into a style that they're a bit more comfortable with. I'm not too familiar with the original, so I can't really compare it too heavily to the original, but I find that this one, at least on its own, is still quite strong and definitely worth a listen in many ways. I find Emmylou does do a great job at taking songs from other genres and porting them over to country with her very distinct country style. It's a talent that she definitely has done quite well on this album, and I think she could do an entire album of covers alone and really bring something to the table that way as well, and it would be a pretty great cover album. And really the only two songs that I strongly dislike on the album are Bottle Let Me Down and If I Could Only Buy Your Love, and the biggest reason for that is because the vocalist that she's partnered with, again, like I said, just does not clash with her. This all being said, this album does manage to offer up something unique and original by having a very varied set list of songs. I'm going to go ahead and give a soft rating of 7.6 out of 10. That's what the soft rating came to. And then I'm going to harden that rating to the same 7.6 out of 10 because I don't think it is any worse than that, and I can't quite see putting it at an 8 either. It is very much like in the middle 7s for me personally. And of course I found myself wondering if this is essential to all music listeners and major music nerds, and on one hand I thought maybe not, maybe it's not worth a listen. Would I have gone my whole life without hearing this thing and been okay with it? Kind of, in a way, but at the same time this is the exact kind of country that people should think of when they think of country. This is the kind of country that people should latch onto because this is, in my opinion, the truest kind of country there is. much better than a lot of the country that is coming out nowadays. So a lot of people have this strong hatred towards country, and this album and this sort of style manages to give what, in my opinion, is great about country music. It's not riddled with what has plagued country music the past 15 to 20 years. So is this essential? Yeah, it just barely makes it, but yeah, I'll say it is an essential album to listen to. So go ahead and listen to this one because it does offer up some great country music. Anyways, that pretty much does it for this review. Let's go ahead and see what the next album you're going to listen to is in the 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die book. Okay, random number generator on Google, 1 to 1001, generate. 188, 188, we're getting a lot of low numbers lately, eh? 188 is Deep Purple's Deep Purple in Rock. So go ahead and listen to Deep Purple's Deep Purple in Rock, and that review will be out in exactly 1 week from now. And of course, like this video if you like what I said in this video, and please leave a comment on what you personally think of Emmylou Harris's Pieces in the Sky. I would love to hear it. And please subscribe if you want to follow along in listening to every album from the 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die book as we go through 2 a week and dissect each one. This has been Randy Joe, signing off.